As Christmas Day approaches, let us be reminded that the true spirit of the season is not just about ourselves, but about serving others. It's a time to give, to share, and to show kindness in ways that truly make a difference. Hello there. Welcome to this edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. Let's get those pages turning.
In a world that moves so fast, sometimes we forget the moments that matter most. Time waits on no one, and life can change in a split second. This Christmas, cherish the moments we're blessed to share, the simple ones that become our most treasured memories. When we give our full attention, when we show up with our hearts, we give the greatest gift of all. This season, put down the screens, slow down, and give the gift of time, because nothing is more valuable than the moments we share.
When natural disasters like Hurricane Melissa strike, the damage goes far beyond homes and roads. Wildlife is also displaced, injured, and left vulnerable. In this week's episode of Get the Facts, we look at why protecting wildlife during and after natural disasters is important and how these efforts help preserve our environment and communities. Let's join in on the conversation.
Welcome to Get the Facts, the program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Theodore Henry. Ecosystems, wildlife, and the protection of Jamaica's natural habitats, that's our focus for this week's program. Natural disasters like Hurricane Melissa have highlighted the importance of protecting our animals, preserving biodiversity, and understanding how our everyday actions impact the delicate balance of our environment. To help us explore more is Anthony Mackenzie, Deputy Chief Executive Officer in charge of Environmental Management and Sustainability at the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA. Welcome to the program, Sir Mackenzie.
Thank you, Theodore. Pleasure of mine.
Definitely. Let's jump right into getting some facts.
Right.
Wow. We had a Category 5 hurricane.
Big one. Big system.
The word unprecedented has been thrown around now.
Yes.
Before and after. And so perhaps the impacts on the ecosystems around us would also be unprecedented? What kind of
Definitely. It has been devastating, significantly so. So the hurricane passed through to the west.
Right. Yes,
so sections of Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Trelawney. Importantly, those two areas, we have some very important ecological systems there. So there is the Black River protected area that includes the Black River morass, the upper and lower morass. There are Ramsar sites, internationally renowned. And then, of course, we have the cockpit country.
Yes.
It is a protected area as well because it has significant natural resources, biodiversity, over 100 endemic of species of plants found nowhere else. Of course, over 28 endemic birds occupied there.
Right.
And then 2 significant local endemic parrots, the yellowbill and the blackbill. They habitat that entire cockpit country area, 78 hectares of land. And that area was devastated. I mean, we're still doing our assessments as we enter the area. I mean, inaccessibility problems exist. But the assessment so far is pointing to significant damage to those 2 ecosystems. Right. The Forestry Department makes a point that 50% of our forest area was damaged, impacted through the last hurricane. And that is really a lot of damage.
So could I jump in here before you go on? So persons might be watching and thinking about trees, because you mentioned forest. And like, well, trees, you break them and they grow back. You mentioned yellow-bellied parrots, and I'm thinking, oh, what if those die?
Right. So when we initially looked at the damage, I mean, the vegetation, it was just decimated. And you'd feel that this is all lost.
Right.
I mean, at this point, 4 or 5 weeks after, we're seeing some recovery.
Yeah.
And I think the point that the lesson that we're learning is that it's important that as we build our natural resilience, that we keep these areas healthy and functional, so that they are able to bounce back in the event of these systems. So that's the work of agencies like NEPA, the Forestry Department, to ensure that we offer that protection.
Yeah.
So trees, to some extent, will recover over time. The healthier they are before, then the quicker they'll recover.
A little trickier.
Animal species, birds in particular,
Yeah.
they would be significantly impacted, the beach population. Some would have moved out of the area, very possible, but certainly the habitat would have been denigrated because they inhabit certain species of trees, for example. If you look at find their food in certain areas, they nest in certain trees, in certain types of vegetation. If you look at the swallowtail butterfly, for example, which is the largest butterfly in the Western Hemisphere, Jamaican butterfly.
Yeah.
Right? That particular species, their larval stage function on a particular species of trees, and then when there are caterpillars, certain species of trees, and then they feed on certain species of trees.
Right.
So when their impact, when the hurricane comes through and damage and destroys those trees, then certainly you don't have that vegetative coverage to provide the habitat, right?
So when we're thinking about people who are not able to perhaps feed themselves so well, animals are having the same challenge.
Exactly.
But you mentioned something that I want to zoom in on. How does NEPA carry out these assessments?
Well, okay, so we use a manual way by just going into the area and measuring, visualizing and observing, but also we use drones to assist us in the coverage, as well as satellite imagery, because from that you can get pre and post pictures so that you can actually do the assessments using particular software to make the assessment. But of course, ground truthing can never be discarded. We have to go ground truthing, where you're going inside and actually making the observation. And then we have particular methodologies to apply in terms of how we collect the data, what we measure, and putting it into our databases and so on. So that is presently being done. We have an initial assessment of the damage so far, and that feeds into the National Assessment Report that is coordinated through the Planning Institute of Jamaica. So we try to place a value on these resources, actual figures. Right. So in terms of rehabilitation and restoration, we know that because it's going to cost us to support restoration efforts. So plants would try to grow back, but then some areas might be totally destroyed. So for example, in some of our marshlands that are perhaps freshwater, if we had saline intrusion because of the storm surge, within the Black River area, I mean, you have saline intrusions, and so those plants would die probably permanently, and so you might have to provide assisted growth. And so the agency, from a policy point of view, we have developed a restoration plan. In fact, that plan was prepared even prior to the hurricane. Right. And so we're modifying that so that we can support that effort once we have the necessary resources and so on over time to bring in the restoration. Certainly also with particular species.
Could I break you right here? We're going to have to pick this up because we have to go to a break right now, but we're going to keep talking about the balance in the ecosystem and especially what people can do to avoid further damage and to help in NEPA's restoration. So please stay with us. We're at the break. We'll be right back.
This is a crisis, and it is one thing that we must never do, is waste a crisis. The other word for crisis is opportunity. And this is an opportunity to make Jamaica stronger. And I know that with unity, togetherness, genuine unity and togetherness, Jamaica will recover and recover stronger.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. Several environmental challenges continue to affect our wildlife and ecosystems in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa. So, we continue our discussion on the key issues Jamaicans should be mindful of during this period. And still with us is Anthony Mackenzie, Deputy Chief Executive Officer in charge of Environmental Management and Sustainability at the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA. Sir Anthony, we spoke about displacement in animals. Right. You brought up the swallowtail butterflies. What was the yellow-billed parrot? Did I get that right?
Yellow-bill and black-bill parrot.
Yeah, okay, yellow-bill, not belly. Okay. Yes. But you also mentioned St. Elizabeth, and one of the things that we know from St. Elizabeth, apart from the river and the mangroves, is the
crocodiles.
Very large reptiles.
Exactly.
Storm surges have come in, water intrusion has come in, the ecosystem has been shaken.
Yes.
Are you expecting that people have to interact with some of these displaced animals?
Well, there will probably be greater interaction. In fact, we've had reports, for example, down in Treasure Beach, they're seeing more crocodiles there. And it's postulated that they would have moved from out of the Black River area down to that section because of the displacement.
So what should people do or not do?
Well, they should report it to NEPA.
Okay.
The fact is that we have a network of zoos and sanctuaries, wildlife sanctuaries, and also game wardens who we can dispatch anywhere in Jamaica within no time.
To capture the animals?
Well, to support or to relocate, for example. Yeah, but animals have definitely been displaced. I mean, the Saturday after the hurricane, where I live, right, there's a tree there, it's just blossoming. And I saw 20 hummingbirds, the Jamaican hummingbirds. It's the first time I'm seeing that in my life, in one location.
Right. Food scarcity.
And yes, they've been displaced and looking for food and so on. So persons can support that effort. I suppose putting out fruits and nuts and etc. But importantly, I mean, you don't need to catch them. But if you see injured animals, crocodiles, then certainly I'm asking that you report it to NEPA. We're easily accessible. Just type in NEPA on any other social media.
And can make the report.
And the reports can be made. And as I said, we'll have people coming out to assess and to, if necessary, rescue and or relocate these species, including crocodiles, but of course our Jamaican birds and so on.
So we don't need to capture them. We can go a little step further. We also shouldn't hunt them.
Exactly. We shouldn't hunt them because a lot of these animals are protected under law. The Jamaica Wildlife Protection Act provides the protection for these species and habitats. And just earlier this year, the fines were increased under the regulation. So now, previously it was $50,000 if you are caught having these creatures in a part or whole of them. And now those fines have gone up to anywhere up to $5 million. So they're significant. Right? So we ask that you take care of these animals, but don't capture them, harm them, and so on. Especially we've had issues with the American crocodile. And again, the fines have been increased, and we want to protect these animals.
Right. So the legislative framework has been in place and is
the legislative framework is in place
even before the hurricane.
Yes, and the aspect with respect to the fines, those were minimal, and they were serving as a proper deterrent.
Right.
And the government recently increased those fines, and I mean we tried to make it public and for our population to be aware of that. I mean, we don't want to prosecute or finding the body.
Right.
We've been moving to try to educate persons on this aspect of it.
All right. So let me just underline this again. So in instances where persons see distressed or displaced animals, injured animals,
please report it to NEPA.
Right.
And sometimes in some places there are game wards who are popularly known within the community.
Oh,
so you can always make contact with them. And of course there are sanctuaries. There's a sanctuary in St. Thomas, there's a Hope Zoo, there are sanctuaries along the north coast, Trelawny, St. Anne, down in St. Elizabeth, had a sanctuary that was kind of impacted. Right? But we have personnel around the country who would be in a position to take care of these particular animal species.
Right, right. As we come down to near our close, I want us to make a real case here. The damage to the environment and the biodiversity around us is not just, to use the colloquial terms, bush is dead. Bush was a couple animals dead. This is destabilizing to people's livelihoods.
Definitely. And to the economy overall, there's interconnectivity, interlinkages between our biodiversity, our habitat, or species, and of course, us as humans.
Right.
You mentioned earlier about the bees. The value of the bee as a pollinator is significant.
Right.
I mean, 40% of our agricultural products and produce depend on the work of the bee. Right?
Most people would think you'd say, the work of the farmer.
Of the bee, right?
Yeah.
So it's important. So if we lose that particular pollinator, I mean, there are other pollinators as well, other butterflies, other insects and so on, but the bee is critical.
Chief, right.
And I'm just using that example to show that interconnectivity between our biodiversity, our species, and our economy, the agricultural sector, as an example.
Yeah.
So it's critical.
Yeah, NEPA's work is critical, even though it is silent and we might think it's in the background. It is absolutely critical. In the last few seconds of this interview, is there anything you'd like to say directly to our watching audience? Yeah.
Well, I just want to make the point again that it's important that we take care of our environment. It's important that we take care of our natural resources.
Right.
Because when we have a healthy environment, when our forests, when our coastal ecosystems or coral reefs or mangroves are healthy, then we are building our natural resilience, protecting us and mitigating the impact of the significant storm events, which no doubt will increase intensity as the climate projections suggest. And so when we make them healthy, then we are protecting our lives, our livelihoods, and our local communities.
Thank you. If I could sum up your final statement is, let's care.
Let's care, exactly.
Let's care. This has been Get the Facts. Our guest was NEPA's Deputy Chief Executive Officer in charge of Environmental Management and Sustainability, Anthony McKenzie. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Theodore Henry. Take care.
Think positively. Focus on the power of optimism and hope. The thoughts we nurture shape our attitudes, actions, and ultimately our lives. So, reflect on the good in your life.
Christmas is a time when many get caught up in the excitement of gift giving, celebrations, and last-minute shopping. And while credit cards can make it easier to manage expenses during this busy time, they can also make it easier to overspend without realizing it. In our next feature, we take a closer look at how credit cards work and why being mindful now can help prevent financial stress long after the decorations come down.
When we think about credit cards and who should get one and who shouldn't get one, it really comes down to your repayment ability. Because when you get a credit card, you're essentially getting a 0% interest loan until the repayment date. When that repayment date comes, if you're unable to make the payment, that is when we're in problem. That's when you get the 45%, the 50% interest being added onto your credit card balance. So if you know that you're disciplined enough to make the monthly payments as it relates to how much you've spent, that is when you want to consider getting a credit card. Don't go out there and get these exorbitant limits that you know say you have to go beg, borrow, or thief to pay back. You want to get something that you know you can comfortably pay back each month, and that's really the secret to credit card. When you think about reasons not to get a credit card, it's if you cannot manage to pay back the monthly balance. And so at that point now, you're gonna have these high interest costs being added onto the balance, and you know you end up in like quicksand where you're just sinking because you can't pay back the interest, you can't pay back the balance, and it keeps going up every month. You're in a rat race. So if you know I am somebody who struggles to pay back things, who are bag of people money, do not go and get a credit card to add to that level of debt. I love credit cards. Why? Because I love other people's money. Because using other people's money, aka leverage, is one of the best ways to build wealth. These days you have travel reward cards, you have cashback cards, and so using credit cards can help to pay for other things in your life. You're getting money to use in other areas. Of course, I make sure I pay it back every month. You have to make sure you do that. So right now, go and look on your credit card statement, examine the balance. Make sure it is something you are comfortable in paying. You control the balance that you get. The banks will suggest a balance to you when they approve the credit card, but you can say, here what? Bring it a little lower because I want to be in a position to make sure that I can pay this money every month. Also, stick to your budget. Do not spend what you know you cannot pay back. That is not prudent. So the combination of making sure that your credit card has a limit you can pay back, plus being wise enough to stick to your budget every month. Those two together will keep you in a position where you are not paying these exorbitant interests. So when we talk about the bagger credit cards, and some people have 3, 5, 10 cards, you see them backing out these fat wallets, fat purses with a lot of credit cards. We don't necessarily want to be in that position. Why? Credit cards have annual fees, and if you have 10 credit cards, that means 10 annual fees. That really does add up. Get a set of cards, maybe 1 or 2 cards maximum that fit your budget and your lifestyle. Do you need 10 cards? No. The fact that you have 10 cards indicates that you may have a spending problem, and that's a bigger issue that you want to work through. Don't work through it with the cards. Work through it by being disciplined and sticking to a budget.
Make money, money, make money, money, money. Make money, money, make money, money, money.
The cash advance is another popular thing. A lot of persons go and they push in the credit card into the ATM and pull cash out. Nice, because we're getting other people money, but bad because cash advances have a very high interest rate tied to them. And even with some banks, the cash advance, you will never stop paying interest. A better option can be just going to get a short-term loan or going to a friend or family member and borrowing the money from them over the short term. When we're thinking about which credit card we want, it can first come to the bank that you do most of your transaction with. Speak to them about the different suites of credit cards that they have and the benefits. Plus, with credit cards these days, they have a lot of benefits tied to them. So when you go on the bank's website and you see all the credit cards that are there, you can pick which one works best with your lifestyle. You can shop around and find one of the lowest interest rates out there associated with the card and pick that one. Scams are very common. We want to protect ourselves as it comes to credit cards. General things, cover the pin where you're putting it. Do not just have the credit card lying out there, exposing the number and the CVV on the back of the card. We don't want to do that. Some persons lock their credit card. I've seen them do that where, they set a very small daily transactional limit so that if the card is stolen, somebody's not out there running up the credit card as well. Another thing when we think about credit card security is that two-step authentication. This is where now we do a transaction, but we get notified by email or text message about that transaction. That way, if it is not you who did the transaction, you see an email pop up, you can say, wait, that's not me. Let me quickly call my bank, tell them about this fraudulent transaction so that they can shut down my card and prevent any future fraudulent transactions on the card. The first way is called the avalanche method. Second way, we call it the snowball method. Number one in both methods, stop using the card. And then we're gonna write down the card balance and the associated interest rate on the card. So that means pulling up the statement, write down that outstanding balance and writing down the interest rate. A lot of people don't know the interest rate, but it's on the statement. It's on your monthly statement, or you can call the bank and ask them about the interest. And then there are two ways you can go about it. The first way, you can start with the card with the highest interest rate and say, I'm gonna focus on paying that off first. So all your extra income, you're gonna put that towards paying off the card. The rest of the cards, you're only making the minimum payment. Then you work down to the next one, and going down that series of interest rates. Second method is saying, all right, I want to pay off the card with the highest outstanding balance first. A lot of people choose that method because it gives you more satisfaction. You say, well, when I knock off the 10 million card or the 100,000 card, I feel good. It inspires me to keep going. So you're gonna pay off the card with the highest outstanding balance. Pay as much as you can, and then the remaining cards, you're only making the minimum payment each month. So I want you to take a stab at either one. They both work. Try, tested, and proven they work. Pay down by interest rate, the highest one to the lowest, or pay down by outstanding balance, the highest to the lowest. But key thing, stop use the cards while you're paying them off. Put them in a drawer, put them in a box, put them under your bed, under your mattress. Make sure you stop using them, because that's the only way you're gonna be able to pay them down. You can't be paying and using at the same time. You're gonna be in a rat race and the balance will never go down.
This Christmas, choose life. As we recover from Hurricane Melissa's devastation, we're reminded that life is fragile. Pedestrians, stay alert. Drivers, slow down. Rest if you're tired, and never drink and drive. One careless decision can change a family forever. Let's have a safe and prayerful Christmas and a crash-free 2026.
Yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. From now on, all troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. From now on, our troubles will be miles away. Here we are, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us, gather near to us once more through the year.
As we wrap up today's show, we'd like to wish everyone a happy and safe holiday season. And remember, to catch a repeat of this or any other, feel free to log on to our website at jis.gov.jm. Until next time, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Happy holidays.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.